So we bring in Travis Eldridge now to talk a little bit about this because it's something that's sort of been brewing, I guess, now for the last few weeks about the Syracuse-Hopkins rivalry. And it sort of peaked with seeing Gary Gait interviewed at Homewood, as the head coach of Syracuse with Petro on his staff as a defensive coordinator. I just think it's really interesting in terms of the rivalry. And I'm wondering, where is this rivalry right now, Travis? The Syracuse-Hopkins storied rivalry.
Well,
I don't know if it's what it used to be.
I tweeted about Gary Gait being interviewed in Homewood, and it got a lot of play on social media. And if anything, Dave Petramala being hired by Syracuse just reignites the rivalry. I don't think it was gone. Like, Syracuse had won the last two, but, I mean, Hopkins also had won the last time the two matched up in the NCAA tournament. And you look at the last 5 meetings between these two, it's relatively even. I think it's 3-2 Syracuse. So I don't think the rivalry has gone anywhere. It was a bummer this past year, like so many rivalries involving Big Ten teams, that it didn't happen. So I think maybe you forget about it. But, like, if you're a diehard Hopkins fan and you're watching the Syracuse head coach get interviewed on your field during a PLL weekend, I mean, look, I go Gary Gait's a big figure in the sport, but that's got to drive you crazy.
Right,
because I mean, that's your spot.
This is your home.
Like, this is supposed to be Paul Rabel and Kyle Harrison back on Homewood, and you got a Syracuse guy being interviewed on the sideline, getting a chance to give his recruiting pitch to all the guys that may go there instead of being at Hopkins. If I'm a Hopkins fan, that drives me nuts. The same way if the Hopkins coach is being interviewed in the Carrier Dome on a PLL stop, that's driving me crazy.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know if Peter Millman was available. Maybe he was out recruiting. I don't know. But, I mean, the newness of the Gary Gait, with the Syracuse and all that. I guess also you look at the scope of where these teams have been the past few years also plays a factor in the prominence on a national scene. I know individually,
honestly,
with those guys,
they're kind of even.
You think they're
the programs right now, because neither one of them have had the success that the alumni and the fans expect. Like, at the end of the day, both have gone now to new coaches, different situations, but it kind of similar feels to them in terms of they're not having the success that they want to, and now they're turning to somebody else to try to reignite that success. For both programs, it's championship weekend or bust. For Hopkins, it's been since 2015. For Syracuse, it's been since 2013. If that doesn't change, like, that is the expectation for these coaching staffs now. If that doesn't change, then that's not a success.
But how does that move the rivalry forward? I guess how does all these changes impact things? Does it lose that luster? Because neither of these teams have won in a long time. It's been a while since they've both been at the top of our national psyche as well, compared to some other teams. I mean, Syracuse has been a little more involved in the last few years. I mean, I look at their battles with Virginia that have gone on.
But Hopkins has had Maryland.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. But that's in their own. That's a different rivalry. That's not Syracuse-Hopkins.
Yeah, but I think the same way Syracuse-Virginia, even in the years where Virginia and Syracuse, neither one of them were making Final Fours, and that was only a couple of years ago. Yeah, that rivalry was still big, and I think in Syracuse-Hopkins, still the same thing. It happens so early in the season that, like, you almost don't know exactly what the teams are going to have, and the expectations are always going to be there. So when you have a game like that happens in the beginning of March, it's always going to be a marquee game, and I don't think it's lost anything. I think, if anything, with Petro moving over, like, the first time Petro plays against Hopkins as the defensive coordinator at Syracuse this year, like, talk about just wild stuff. I mean, that's incredible. You're talking about guys that he recruited that he's now playing against.
And I think also with Petro not coaching at Hopkins this last year, sort of removed him a little bit from that. Whereas if he had been it would never have happened. But if he had been the head coach at Hopkins and went and gone to Syracuse the next year, I thought there might be a little more time. But he sort of was able to remove himself a bit. But
you got the anticipation. Come on.
You see Petro in the Syracuse garb on social media, like, he still is Hopkins.
It feels weird.
It is.
Feels really weird.
It does. It's going to be weird seeing those two next to each other.
Yeah.
with Syracuse on. I don't know how it's going to be. But, yeah, I think also in any rivalry, too, when eventually I think Peter Millman's going to do a good job. I think Hopkins took a step forward this year. I think
by the end of the year, yeah.
I think, yes, you're right. I think when these teams maybe are back in that conversation among the national powers, that'll sort of ignite the rivalry even more once again. I think the winning for both is going to help things.
Yeah, 100%. In my estimation, it's not going anywhere.
All right.